was born in the middle of the Korean War, right around 1951 or 52. I have memories of that. I have memories of the fighting, and I used to have nightmares about the war for many years afterwards. My birth father was a American military man, and my mother was a Korean woman. And when I was 4, he disappeared, and I don't know why or how. So when I was 4 and a half, my mother brought me to a street corner in a market and told me to look down the street one way and not turn around, and that was the last time I saw her. So I became a street orphan for a while until a Methodist missionary nurse found me and brought me to an orphanage. And I lived there for perhaps a year and a half before I was adopted into the U.S. by the Clement family. I boarded an airplane when I was adopted. In 24 hours, no one could understand me, and I could no longer understand anyone else. So I thought overnight I had become very stupid. No one had explained to me that I was about to embark on a journey to another country with a different language and different culture, and so it was quite a surprise when I got off the airplane and listened to everyone speaking.
The circumstances were that we were living as a family in North Carolina, and they notified us that several adoptees would be arriving from Seoul by airplane in New York City. So I went up to New York City. There were several children they had Korean nannies with them to make sure that they were comfortable, and they presented me to my son.
I'm meeting my adopted dad for the first time, and I don't know who he is, and so I've got my hand grasping Mika's clothing, and she was the other adoptee that came. There was only 2 of us that came on that flight, so I'm holding on to her while I'm looking at him. My adoptive father picked me up at the New York airport and drove down to North Carolina, where we live, and they brought me into the living room and sat me down on this humongous couch, which is something I had never seen before. And one by one, they brought my new brother and sister in, and they were sitting across the room from me, and they were giggling and laughing and speaking this strange language, and I thought it was Chinese.
We couldn't speak to each other. The first words I ever said to him, and Tom remembers it, was we gave him a little toy Jeep, and then when I was driving in North Carolina to our home, he kept moving the Jeep back and forth on the dash in front of me, and I kept saying, "Easy, easy." So his first word that he learned was easy.
I decided that I was not going to speak Korean anymore, and I had to learn English. And then my parents invited some Korean students from the university over to talk to me in Korean, and I refused to talk to them. I ignored them. I hid behind my mother's skirt.
Because of experiences in Korea, he was afraid that they were going to bring him back.
Very little could be determined about Tommy's life in Korea. After learning to speak English well enough to express himself, his memory of his life there began to fade, and in fact became mixed with fancy. His life must have been uneventful and with few experiences. Food was scarce, blankets were few there, and he sleeps with all blankets tucked around and under his shoulders.
My adopted mother's name was June Clement, and she was extremely intelligent. She graduated from Smith College and always involved in helping somebody somewhere, and it was more than just in our community. They adopted when most people didn't, and most people were unaware of the Korean War. They didn't even know where Korea was. Yet my mother, she did part-time work for the UN, and they had foresight and a huge humanitarian heart to see. They had 3 biological children, but they still adopted internationally. If I ran into other kids who were prejudiced against me, I never came home and told my parents or family about it, because they treated me so much like family that I didn't want to remind them that I was adopted. That's how completely they accepted me. The feeling of stupidity got worse when I went to grade school. Well, I was put into first grade without knowing more than a couple of words of English, and I didn't have a clue about school, what anybody was doing. For instance, in second grade, we were given a math test, and I copied the little boy's paper next to me. His name was Christopher Vandenhoner. And the next day, the teacher handed out the papers that were graded. And she said, here's an A+ for Christopher Vandenhoner, and here's another A+ for Christopher Vandenhoner. And then she looked at me and said, where's your paper, Tommy? And she knew that I had copied his whole paper, including his name.
Even up through high school, he was really behind. He didn't show scholastic aptitude. School didn't seem like his forte. But as he got into high school, we moved him into a technical program. He just thrived. We put him into an electronics program. And within a few months, the instructor was telling us that he had a real gift, that he was just a natural for it.
I didn't talk very much, but I never stopped thinking. My mind was always going. My internal voice was always going. I just didn't share what I was thinking with people.
He had all kinds of electronics, and particularly with electronics, he would bring home all kinds of electronic things and take them apart and put them together and conduct experiments in his room and flashing lights, and he had a marvelous time.
When I was around 20, my mother passed away from cancer, and that was a very difficult thing for the whole family. My parents were right in the middle of designing a new house, a very large house. They had planned it for a long time, and she never saw it completed. After my mother passed away, my father, he didn't want to keep working as an executive for General Electric because it had a lot of pressure. And he moved to Indiana to open up stores. While he was opening up the stores, I stopped going to school in Massachusetts and I transferred to Purdue because the university that I was going to had a 100% credit transfer back and forth to Purdue University. And that's how I ended up in Indiana. I was in engineering school for a couple of years, and then I got tired of that. So I switched my degree to psychology, which was a big mistake. My father said I shouldn't do that. He's an electrical engineer. He thought I should stick with the engineering program, but I really wasn't interested. So after I graduated with a psychology degree and I really couldn't get a job that paid very well, I became a carpenter and I started building houses. And that was a very difficult job because, well, in Indiana, there was a blizzard. It's called the Blizzard of '87. And on that day, we were outside putting siding onto a building. And you could barely see the nail in front of you because the blizzard was so heavy. And I remember one guy walking along saw us and he came over to us and he wanted our phone number because he said, if you guys work in days like this, I know you'll show up to do my job. Then I got tired of that. So I went back to engineering school, and this time I completed my degree. And it's an electrical engineering degree from Purdue University. After the electronic job, I obtained a job as an inventor for a medical company. The company's name was Vantech, and if you are hired as an inventor for any company, they give you $1 per patent. After they owed me around $6, I decided in 1988 to start my own company, and that's Mectra Laboratories, Inc. It's been 24 years of operating that company, and we're doing very well now. We're building equipment. And automated bottle filling machine. We have 2 bottles. As a kid, my favorite show, my absolute most favorite show was called Clyde Crash Cop. And Clyde Crash Cop was an inventor. He was tall and skinny, had a mustache, and whatever he drew on the chalkboard became 3D and in real life. So after watching that show, I thought, that's what I want to be when I grow up. I want to be an inventor. I want to draw things and have them come to real life. And oddly enough, I grew up and I am an inventor. I have 37 US medical patents currently and 4 pending right now. When I was around 12 years old, 13 or 14, the Beatles were very popular. And so a lot of kids wanted to play guitar. Fortunately, in our neighborhood, we had 4 other kids that wanted to play guitar, and they had their guitars and amplifiers. So we formed a small band. It was a lot of fun. We practiced it down in basements of different people's houses that their parents didn't mind a lot of bad noise going on, very loud. I think that's why I've gotten back into it at a later age. I've joined a band, and as you can see behind me, this is the equipment that we use. And hopefully we're a little bit better than when I was 12 years old.